Hello there, it's the 2nd of Feb, and today we've got a 1 versus 1 ladder on the pizza map, featuring the highest rated 1 versus 1 today, the 2nd of Feb, Silent Noob, and a random bunch of letters and numbers belong to someone who I only can suspect was having some sort of a seizure when it came to entering his username. 1875 versus 1775. But before we activate the teleporter, watch this. And please copy. I realise I'm being kind of forward on it, and I know some people have, but most haven't. And so take a little look at this here. If I can bring it up. The magic of television. All right. Open up a browser, ideally on PC or Mac, because there's a little trick. Type in YouTube, make it go, click, and then when it's there in the search, type in FAF Cast Division. Enter. Here is the new Games with Brains channel that is only to do with Forged Alliance Forever stuff. No other notifications to do with flying or anything, because Forged Alliance Forever replays are no longer going to be on the Games with Brains channel. That's the channel you're watching now, the Games with Brains. So click on this channel. There is already a video there. Now it may say, whoops, I don't really want to play it. Okay, got it, whatever. I don't really want to play it, but for those that don't know, there were huge changes on YouTube in the last few months. And there's two different settings. We've got normal videos here, but we've also got live videos here. So don't just click on it and think, oh, well, there's only one video. There's actually 4 in total if you count the live casts. There's a 5th one coming, that will go live later tonight. That's on a 5 versus 5. So do make sure you join this. So far, 25 people have, and so well done to all of yous. Everybody else who joins today, you know, you'll be an early adopter. Link is in the description of this live video, and so follow that. And again, if you press Shift when you click on one of these links, it opens up into a new video. Now, it's not going to be as obvious because I'm casting and I'm capturing the one specific video. But what it lets you do is open up a link without losing the existing page that you're on. In other words, the video that you're watching now, you don't have to exit in order to go and subscribe to a new one. Now, if you're doing this on a phone or whatever, maybe it's not as easy to do. So with that intro out the way, let's take a look at today's game. By the way, there's a little piece of bump on it again, just explaining the way that it's going. This channel and the existing ones. So let's see if we can come on over real quick then. I realise this is going about as smooth as a piece of moon rock that's been grated with some titanium filings, but at the end of the day, what do you expect, right? It's all professional and nothing else but from here. And so with us in game, let's unpause. And we'll welcome our 2 people onto the game. I hope that is going out correctly. At least the preview screen looks good. So with any luck, it is kind of doing what it's doing. All right. With that all out the way, over into the 12, or shall we call it the 1 o'clock position. I think we'll go with 1 o'clock. On the northern side, it's Silent Noob. He's featured very prominently on the channel in the last week or two. Must play an awful lot. UEF 1735 rated, one of the highest rated players that we've got on the ladder that's active today. Going first land on the infamous pizza map. Used to get this even in my day. I used to hate it because it's a 20 by 20, and if you got this on a 1 versus 1 ladder, unless you were loads better than your opponent or they were loads better than you, almost for sure it was going to be a long game. And I hated long games on maps that weren't my favourite. And I'm sure there's others that can sympathise. You used to see it a lot on, if you got a settings map, even on the replays, the chat would fill up. And often you'd have people agreeing to a draw just so they didn't have to play it. But we haven't finished introducing our players, and there's only 2, so I haven't got many excuses. It's Seraphin, 1875 rated. And again, I ain't even going to try and pronounce this random mixture of letters and numbers. I'm just going to call him RV, because those are the first 2 letters there. RV versus Silent Noob. Seraphin. Now, this guy 1775, Silent Noob 1735. And so this guy about 140 or so rating points ahead. And so big advantage to the blue player there on the 7 o'clock position. We'll have to see if that translates into any meaningful advantages as the game evolves. Now, again, you know my little thing, and I like to take a little peek at games. I don't watch them all the way because then, I know what's going to happen and boring. I like to watch some of it, see if it's looking okay, and if it is, I'll cast it. I actually had to go through 4 replays until I finally found the one that was worth casting. I already put filters on the replays to just filter out anything that's only going to last like 10 minutes or that only has one play. Of course, lots of people practice in build orders. And there's various other little, I get rid of all the ones that are rated like 300 or less because, what's the point, right? And that leaves us, with a number of replays I had to go through. But I found one, and here we are. And so with all that real long out the way, I feel like, do you know what? Why don't you comment on the game instead of just talking about how you like to do things? And we're not even there. We don't care. We just want to see what you've got to show. I sympathise. I used to hate when people waffled on, and then I hit record, and I find I'm doing it myself. RV then, second commander in pace, having rushed engineers out to the hydro. So we got 2 out to the hydro. Of course, you have to roll your engineers out this way and swing round. And so there's quite a lot of time where your engineers are not actively doing anything in order to get the hydro. It's a long way. And when it's an early sort of thing that you have to do, your first engineers that are out idle, it feels like you're wasting time, but that's how cost effective it is building a hydro. It's worth sending out 2 engineers idle all that time. There is quite a lot of reclaim on this map. We'll take a look at it, but it's certainly worth having engineers. If we look down here, 250, 90, 50, 270, 120, 40. So in this clump here, already we're looking at best part of 1,000 mass, and that's repeated basically throughout the pizza slices, on all of the pizza slices. Every slice is basically identical. There may be the most minor cosmetic difference, but in terms of mass and reclaim and mass points, everyone's got a hydro. It is what it is. It looks like RV is getting a drop. Silent Noob's locked on, and he's going after the drop ship. And RV's going to have to hurry up with that drop. He does, in the nick of time, manage to drop him. And that's kind of crucial because there was a lot of engineers there. 1, 2, 3, at least 6 engineers belonging to RV. He does manage to get the factory up in record time. And that is with what looks like huge air dominance here from Silent Noob. Is potentially going to make expansion quite difficult for RV onto his second slice. And it looks like RV agrees and thinks, right, well, if I can't get air there, I'll go over and do it myself. And RV there moving in by his sen. If anyone wonders, what's sen? It's a lazy way that people from up north say self. By myself, if you want to give it the Queen's English. Yes. By one... No, they don't even say myself, do they? They say oneself. By oneself, we would... and it's always we when they mean the royal we, right? And looks like Silent Noob now, hyper-aggressive, moving in with a transport and looking to close down the slice that would rightfully belong to RV. So Silent Noob here... I don't know. Silent Noob's moving his ACU here. That's Silent Noob's main base. And so, at least for now, 3 slices go into Silent Noob. Oh, and he gets a transport ship picked off. RV with 3 interceptors picks off a transport ship belonging to Silent Noob. And that's kind of crucial, because if Silent Noob had a set up shop there, that would have been 4 slices versus 2. And there's only so long you can play this game with 1/3 of the economy that your opponent has and expect it to go well. But it'd have been 1/3 versus 2/3, wouldn't it? Not quite 1/3 of the economy, but half, right? 2. If you've got 2 and they've got 4, you've got half as much as they have, even though on a map it's 1/3 of the map. I know what I mean, even if nobody else does. And RV, single engineer, dropped onto where Silent Noob's already set up. I don't believe it. It's got 29 hit points left. It's not dead. Silent Noob will know it's there. and does finally move in to deal with. Looks like RV so aware that he knows it's going to die, he doesn't even bother wasting an APM on trying to move it, and I would have done the same. It's a lost cause. Use your APM somewhere else, i.e. down here, and it looks like RV is going to make a play for the 5 o'clock position slice. RV also has his ACU in. He's also sending bombers in, and this is huge because that bomber prevented from getting the bomber does go down there. I'm just wondering, I don't think Silent Noob's got enough left here to fight off this ACU, even if he wanted. You see, he does send his second engineer. So that's going to go down. Very nice recovery there from Silent Noob. You see, he's not giving up. He's thinking, right, well, I'll try do it here then. And looks like that's where it all comes down to. Silent Noob does eventually get some guys up to the 11 o'clock island. Looks like he used a transport ship that wasn't shot down on this occasion. Slow to set up shop, but who can blame him when it seems like all the action's been down here? And speaking of slow to set up, RV is not set up at all. And just wonder, oh, nice pickup from Silent Noob. You're gonna have to go for the engineers, and he gets them all, and with that the build queue there goes down, and that is potentially giving Silent Noob an advantage. If he can get these factories done before this ACU is finished, looks like RV is happy there to reclaim the factory belonging to Silent Noob. It gives him a little bit of mass as well. But RV once again forced to send bombers in. Sends his interceptors over top first, gets a read on the intel, and bomber circles in. Doesn't get a bomb off on the first pass, which is interesting. Not sure if that was a misclick, but I don't think the same mistake's going to happen twice. Away comes the bomb. Boom, nice pickup. Although those engineers were actively building, they were reclaiming. And now RV moving in right next door with a drop of his own with nothing more than engineers. He still has a bomber in the area. And it looks like Silent Noob is going to shoot that bomber down. Engineers from RV. I thought he was going to drop them here, but alas, no, he drops them over here. RV now moving in with his commander, and I reckon, yeah, with all these factories spamming units plus the commander, this is going to be very, very difficult for Silent Noob to hold. He is putting a point defense down, but has he got the eco to do it? Well, no, he's stalling super big time, and I thought so because it was building so slow despite having 3 engineers on the case. RV exploiting some of the advantages that the artillery has, parking them up on the cliffside, raining artillery shells down. Silent Noob, wise to that, puts a tank there to shoot back, but I think this is a lost cause at this point. Yes, there's a tech 1-point defense that Silent Noob managed to finish. It is beginning to shoot at RV, but... And this is the sort of point where you'd think, how much is it worth dumping economy into what you're doing here on a position that you know is going to be very, very difficult to hold? Don't forget, it's not like it's just factories versus commander. RV has got factories here and more being produced all the time that are going to continue sending in artillery units. He's got bombers overhead. And this factory, 177 hit points left. That's on the brink of going. He's just using it to produce engineers. I think he was lucky to get that engineer off. Down goes the Hydro. And it looks like Silent Noob just not got enough units here. RV, I love what I'm seeing here with the artillery up top, taking out these factories from range. And it looks like he is going to get the northernmost factory. But Silent Noob not yet giving up. And often at this level, a sign that they've given up, they set all the factories to hold except one, maybe two, and those two factories produce a couple of engineers on attack move to try and reclaim as much of the mass as possible. But it looks like here, Silent Noob is deciding instead to build more. The problem is he's building it right where this artillery is. He does have a Tech 1 bomber in the area, but I think it's going to take more than that. Tech 1 point defense here. This Tech 1 point defense did a lot more than I thought it would, and is basically preventing our RV from just coming all the way up here with his commander. Problem is, it just needs one piece of artillery to be in the right place. And we see on the mini-map, which is one of the great things, that it's all down to what takes place here. But while this is taking place, both players going quite big on the seaside. And we see here Silent Noob with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 working on 7 and 8 naval yards. Meanwhile, on the flip side, RV with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 working on 10 naval yards. And so it looks like Silent Noob at least initially got the numbers out, but it looks like RV is intending overall to build slightly more. And so RV looking stronger and stronger here on the 5 o'clock slice. Tech 2 gunship now working on this static point defense. He has a huge difficulty with that point defense, and looks like he knows it. RV, that's the only thing he's concerned about, dealing with the point defense. Silent Noob starting on the gun. Now he's waiting in the drink. He's got a couple of engineers assisting, and so providing he can afford that economically, and based on the way that the gun there is flying up, he can afford. And it looks like Silent Noob is not yet done with fighting for this island. He's got a couple of probing navy attacks here, but nowhere near enough. This is going to go RV's way all day. And so economically, this very aggressive play from the underdog, don't forget Silent Noob, 140 points behind RV. Doing really well, playing real aggressive, and if we take a look economically, RV ever so slightly ahead, about 4 or 5 mass per tick, and RV has also pulled in about 1,000 mass more overall at this point in the game. Sorry, totals 46 versus 41. So overall, RV, correction, 5,000 mass ahead, but has reclaimed 1,000 mass more than his opponent. That's what I was trying to say. And of course, being me, I say it wrong. But this now looking very precarious for Silent Noob. Yeah, I don't know why he's trying to rebuild at this point. He's got what he may as well just reclaim, try and get what he can. I assume he's task saturated elsewhere, or he would do that. And you can see here, RV, if we hold shift, he's only got one order. It's a shift G, and that is to get all units meeting here, which means your mission is futile. At this point, Guile would be calling him Terrence, the engineer here. Busy building away. And that's another letter he won't be sending home. And it's like, I'm like, Guile, you're missing something else at the other end of the map. And he's like, yes, poor Terrence. He's a brilliant caster. He's been doing this for so long, and I really, really do enjoy a Guile's cast. But I am one of those that get, and I know then I start casting, I start missing shit myself. So, you know, I give as good as I get on this. But Guile, I don't care about Terrence the engineer. Zoom on the other side of the map. There's Strat Bombers. There's also Terrence now. It's like, I'm sure some of you know what I'm on about, but you know, we love him for it. Back to the game at hand, rather than trying to slag off somebody who's been doing this far longer and far better than I ever could. I'm not slagging him off, just passing some observation. But I'll tell you what, more observation that I'm passing here. Silent Noob is really applying the pressure. And sometimes when you're the underdog, you feel like I have to put pressure on, because if I let the other guy do what he's going to do, he's going to kick my ass. So no choice but to put pressure on. And he is on all sides. We saw the Navy drops here. He's got a little run here. He's setting up shop here with his commander. And he is a Tech 2 commander with the gun as well. And so I don't think things are over. He's got Janus Tech 2 fighter bombers from the UEF trying to cut out RV's capability of producing more units. And there's so many factories here belonging to RV going down. I had no idea how good those Janus were versus factories. Oh my goodness, if those things had a buff, looks like 2 runs there. And the napalm just wiping out what was a Tech 1 factory. Air engage comes down to who does the better turns here. And it looks like Silent Noob split off his units. RV didn't, and at least that first turn was a terrible turn from Silent Noob's point of view. Since then, going much better, but when it's over the top of your opponent's air forces, and I think Silent Noob, even though RV was the first guy to pull off, I think Silent Noob will have been happy that he did pull off. And now RV is showing the floating Seraphim flak. Oh my goodness, did I used to hate this shit. You know, I was a UEF player and they'd send in floaty flaks with a lazy attack move or something like that, and that meant you couldn't just rely on Tech 1. You couldn't rely on the sea. You had to do something else. Now, Tech 1 bombers, assuming you've got air, is a good way to deal with floating flak. Or, you know, gunships if you're Tech 2, but really like Silent Noob's use of the Janus bomber here. It's not often I see players using Tech 2 fighter bombers of the UEF. And he's just sending in more. Just carpet bombing the opposing forces. And balls to the wall with his commander here. As we approach minute 90, he's just wiping out. This is really nice play. Usually you see players going after energy or mass or maybe even energy storage, something like that. It's not often you see players going after the actual production capability. Yes, sometimes the build capacity, but I've never seen anybody go after factories like this. And it's gonna reduce the capability of RV to... In fact, what's RV got left to produce units here? I'll tell you what, 1 factory and those days are numbered. Bang, there it goes. RV losing all capability to produce new units here. He's got a load of engineers, he's got a strong air force, but almost nothing else. Engineers now are starting to produce new factories, but yeah. Really, I don't believe it. Silent Noob, look at the mass points here that should belong to RV are all taken out. So what's that done on income-wise? 79 versus 79. It's even Stevens. And so RV's been taken up a lot more in base. Silent Noob just balls to... Forget taking up. Taking ups for nubs. I'm moving in, conquering territory, and that is going to be the way that I tech up. RV, though, huge Navy spam here, moving in. Silent Noob forced to use his Janus defensively versus massive order goes down for about 500 new naval factories for Silent Noob as well. Recognizes, I think you've got more boats than me. And just unbelievable amounts of damage from this napalm. And it looks like RV thinks, yeah, I can't even afford to hang around. Just look how many units are just frazzling to this napalm. They do finally shoot down one of the bombers. We've got numerous torpedo bombers here. I actually think the napalm bombers were doing more, at least versus the frigates, than torpedo bombers ever could. And that may, well, I don't know. I was going to say have tipped it. Do see there's a lot of frigates here from Silent Noob. They certainly didn't have as many as RV, but thanks to that Air Force, much more even than it was. And Silent Noob, not for the first time moving in here with units. RV this time with the air attacking the ACU. And Silent Noob spamming down Tech 1 air. So he's a Tech 2 commander, so he'll be able to build these quite quickly as long as he's got the economy to do so. And that will at some point force RV to withdraw. You don't want to lose air all day to that. And as soon as I think he's got chance, he's going to put himself under a shield. It's getting to the point where you could fear a snipe. And I'm well past the point where I was watching the game up to, and this is turning out to be a really good game. What I saw, first of all, where Silent Noob went for this slice, and then RV went with his commander, and, you know, I watched in, and I saw Silent Noob lose all his factories. I thought, oh, well, that's it now. It's going to be a 50-50 split. Man, was I wrong, and not only was I wrong, it went Silent Noob's way, the underdog. Currently sitting on 3.5 bases out of the 6. RV only on the 2. He does have technically a presence over here with an engineer on reclaim, a couple of factories, but they're about to go down. And also, not for the first time, RV with 0 ability to produce any more units on the 5 o'clock slice. Looks like RV thinks, right, get it, I get it, you've won that, let me switch gears, and that is Navy. He's also got quite a lot of air there as RV, and I'm just thinking, yes, Silent Noob's been playing real nice with the Tech 2 air, but at some point, the Tech 2 air is going to get increasingly bad trades versus all of this spam. Especially if you can only get one pass with a torpedo bomber and you're not even managing to kill a frigate with that pass. Reclaim wise, well, thousands is your answer in the drink already. Thousands. And Silent moving in, attack moving out of the factory yard to grab hold of that, and that is going to give Silent Noob huge reclaim. And for the first time, it feels RV moving aggressively against his opponent. On the 11 o'clock slide, it got 3 gunships that are not escorted, or unescorted, should we say. And Silent Noob moving in to engage, gets one of them, but then the superior air force belonging to RV gets on Silent Noob 6, wipes half of it out. And somehow he finally does lose the 3rd gunship, but cost Silent Noob's entire air force to take out those 3. And with that said, 3 more are moving in. Silent Noob, you're going to have to think of something, man, because you can't be everywhere on the map with your static anti-air placements. You've got no air. Finally feels that the Navy game is evening up a little bit, but I'm looking concerned now. And again, I say it a million times and I'll say it a million more. I like to support the underdog on any sort of discrepancy that's more than like 5 or 10 points or whatever. You know, once it's like certainly 100 or more, we have to support the underdog. I don't know what that is. Is it just me that sort of you think the underdog, go on, or are you somebody that just thinks, do you know what, I'm always going to side with the one who I think's going to win, because, you know, who wants to be with a loser, right? So, yeah. That said, though, Silent Noob, far from playing like a loser, playing real well, except I'm getting increasingly concerned about this air. He does have a lot of static anti-air on his base. He's going to need it because he doesn't want his power wiping out. I like that he's spread it a little bit. And I want to see him build a Tech 2 cruiser. And then I think his air will be resolved a little bit. Silent Noob does look like he's completely conquered down here. The 5 o'clock slice. Minor concern. He's wandering around with his commander. Yes, he's got some Tech 1 AAA, but not really. Not really great at defending against snipes. Unless you're talking about mercies, and those are incorrect faction for this. Bombs continue to rain down. I think the wreck actually killed an engineer there. I'm not sure if that was a single bomb or if it was the wreckage of the plane, but it certainly looked like it took out an engineer there. And so Silent Noob now working on Tech 3 power. It looks like he's struggling to fund it energetically, but all of those problems are going to be over as soon as he gets this T3 ion reactor online, and it can't come soon enough. His opponent did have a Tech 2 cruiser. Silent Noob skirting around the enemy with huge wave of torp bombers. He goes after the destroyer, which I think was a good target to go for, at least at this stage. Some would say go for the cruiser first, but if you're going to get wiped out by air anyway, at this stage in the game, I think the destroyer was the bigger risk, providing Silent Noob can keep moving. And this many frigates over the air, I mean, it'll eventually tickle it to death as well. And we see some of those on, well, post-Bing, right? The dead stick, as we say, you're out of fuel. It's not just you fly slower. Right, little cheeky mass expansion here. 3 NGs belonging to RV that have managed to evade. And now what we got? Tech 2 hover tanks, Yenzin moving up. Solitary Tech 1 point defense left to protect the coastline. And it goes down without killing a single unit. And so our Silent Noob is going to have his hands full, because what's he got to hit back against these? He's got no air. Navy on Navy, and it looks like, at least for now, the Tech favouring RV with at least 2 new destroyers on the line, firing their beam weapons in. At least for now, Silent Noob is not short on numbers, but at some point, the frigates become ineffective against Tech 2. Now, he does finally have a Tech 2 destroyer of his own. And it looks like RV is running out of Navy units here. And that, again, leaves a huge pile of reclaim. And Silent Noob, now with the ion reactor, will be able to spend that. He's sending Tech 2 gunships over here. And he does have... how many ASF has Silent Noob got? 1. 1 ASF. And it happened to be the first icon I saw in a collection. I thought, oh, if he's got all of those ASF, he might have a chance. 1 ASF, not so much. And Silent looking increasingly stronger. I guess RV here, sending NGs in, doesn't want all that reclaim going to Silent Noob's way. But it looks like Silent is trying to get a run by on his opponent. Needs more units than that, though. And RV is setting up naval yards on the front line. And again, I know some casters get confused. Why would you do that? Said it before, say it again. It's not just to produce engineers on the reclaim on the front line. It's not just to produce frigates and spam. They absorb hit points. If you need to retreat your navy, you can retreat them behind your naval yards. Your units shoot through the naval yards at the opponent. The opponent shooting at you hit the naval yards before you. 4,000 hit points. It's a lot of hit points when you consider how cheap it is to build a naval yard versus, say, one of these ships here. See, the cruisers, the max hit points is 2,400. We know a Tech 1 naval yard is cheaper to build than a cruiser, and it's got almost twice the hit points. So there is your answer. It's basically like putting almost as if you've got a little shield, a static shield in the water. Silent Noob now firing missiles over at RV's main base. Common tactic on Pizza, I remember this, getting missiles in. And it looks, at least for now, not making any progress centrally. Having either gotten shot down or conflicting with the terrain. But if he's quick, he's got some Tech 2s that he can go for. That is a nice target. Now, you're not going to get an insta-kill with one. Oh! Well, there must have been two. He does send a second one in for good measure. And that was a very large assisted Tech 2 air production facility there, belonging to RV. Silent Noob now with his shield boat. But RV just continuing here with the naval yards. Does lose the first two. I can hear gunships going at it. There we go. Silent Noob with some gunship. And what seems to be like... I was going to say the first time some air's out of position. And again here with the split. Look at this. Leaves one there. He knows he's going to lose it. Splits off three. Hopes that RV, goes for the decoy. RV not that stupid, I don't think. Already locked these guys up. They're in pursuit. And we know that because he can't see the gunships and they're still pursuing. And must have given him an order to change direction. Loses the lock subsequent. And Silent Noob, who was going to lose these gunships for sure, gets away with it. Silent Noob, if you look, does have intel big time over his enemy base. So he's going to know where to use these gunships. And there's the order. Go here, then go here, then here, then here. Order given. We'll see how far there he gets. Tech 2. I'm just wondering why he's didn't use the missile. Certainly this one here's got 4 missiles in the clip. And there we have it. There is an immediate response from RV, but I think he will get the Tech 2. Yeah, there we go. Both players still jostling for Navy in the central position. RV much more aggressive in terms of getting engineers there, getting reclaims in, building new naval yards for all sorts of shenanigans. And at least for now, with no cruiser to hit back at these gunships, they're working away on a Tech 2 destroyer. And Silent Noob coming out of his lane, or his canal, for what seems like the first time, and not just with a little number of units, wipes out the opposing engineers. And he's going to be feeling good about that, and that is going to leave a lot of reclaim for him. And yeah, the Tech 2 UEF Navy now, you get a shield boat in, you get another one in, and it's like a force multiplier. It really is. And RV, I think, is going to get bullied out of the mid, providing Silent Noob keeps his units together, doesn't let them straggle in. And looks like RV's aircraft in large part are now dead stick. Blinking on and off there. Need some air repair. Air repair stations are now. And somehow... what's this? A couple of Tech 1s belonging to RV. Loses one of them. He's got one left. Does pick up a kill, but that is the last unit RV has on the slice. And I can't believe it, but I think if I had to call it now, and some are going to say, well, you're stating the obvious. I know, but I've been wrong so many times. I like to give a guess when I say call it. I mean, I'm taking a guess, right? I think Silent Noob's going to win. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think the underdog is going to win. Yeah, somebody's saying, yeah. Well, it's kind of obvious, right? He's on 4 out of the 6 slices. He's just won Navy. RV, though, with the air. And RV does have a number of ASF here as well. And he does have a flotilla of T2 destroyers. And so while it may look like it's all over here, it's not as bad as I initially thought. And of course, these destroyers can dive, double up as Tech 2 submarines, and that will render all of these frigates almost useless versus them. And that, I thought that's what he'd done, but no. Yeah, it's a nice looking sky, the nice sunset effect. Certainly for a game that's like, what, 14 years old? Certainly this map was around 14 years ago with the original Supreme Commander. I'm just wondering for the first time now what feels like a moment of pause between the two players. RV has got to think of a plan. So as we approach minute 37, the economies are 146. Income for Silent Noob, 130 for RV. And considering you're on 4 out of the 6 islands versus 2 out of the 6, that disparity far from as big as it could be. Mass totals overall, Silent Noob 244 versus 222,000. So again, around 10-11% favouring Silent Noob at this point. And he's got the Navy to show it. He's had most of that reclaim. RV was very aggressive though with the reclaim. I think RV got a lot more of that than would have otherwise been. I think Silent Noob playing a lot more methodical, a lot more, you know, I'll send my tanks in first, secure the area, then send the NGs in. RV's more like, sod that, NGs front row. Who cares how many die? They're cheap, as cheerful as anyways. And if one of them gets to suck off one of these big naval wrecks, even for just a second or two, the thing's paid for itself. If it gets to suck it off for 3 seconds, well, profit. And that, of course, true. The only thing you got to think is your APM, right? Your actions per minute. Players can only perform so many actions per minute. And some of the actions that Silent Noob currently performing with, thanks to these missile launchers, is picking off exposed mass points belonging to RV. And RV can ill afford this at this point. Picking off isolated factories and all. How many of these got? I miss 5 and 3. So 8 kills between them, and he weren't just shooting at anything. And it looks like RV is putting more and more concentration into fewer and fewer factories. It looks like we've got the Tech 2 Navy here, we've got the Tech 3 Air there, and other than that, but this naval engagement here, absolutely crucial if you're rooting for RV. Or indeed Silent Noob. I think it comes down to what happens here. And so RV there, losing about 3 destroyers in as many seconds. And Silent Noob just relentless. Pushing through. He's got a shield boat. He's got enough spam to tangle up and tie up the targeting computers. And he's pushed RV all the way back to the manufacturing facility. To add insult to injury, sending in torpedo bombers, attacking aircraft on the front line. And now Silent Noob with a cruiser or 2 of his own, lobbing in long-range missiles. And that is going to have its way versus this air. RV playing incredibly well here with what very little he's got. He's continuing to move, exploiting the advantage that the Seraphim Navy has, because the beam weapons almost never miss. He can keep jostling. The longer range projectiles from the UEF, of course, can miss unless you stand your Navy still. And that, of course, negates any advantage you may have had with the beam weapons, of course. Players can't be everywhere, but it is possible, of course, to select your Navy, hold shift and go click, 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 and then let go and then go and do something else. Not the same as patrol, mind the way, because patrol, they will stop when they see an enemy. And so you don't want them patrolling. But Silent Noob losing some mass points of his own. ACU trundling home. I guess he thinks, you know, I've done good there on the front line. And it looks like I might be winning. I'm risking things if I stay on the front. And who can blame him? And it looks like Silent... I think he's got air as well. Avi's just got so many planes that need fuel. He's lost his Tech 2 Navy yard. Avi in the drink. And if you wanted him to survive, he'd probably say, get out the water, get out the water. But I think he knows if he gets out the water and this Navy wins, it's over anyway. So he's desperately sending torpedo bombers in. Trying to get what he can. Continues to use the 2 destroyers he's got left defensively behind these naval yards. Really nice to see the destroyer there. Looks like it's going to go down with about 14. Maybe does he get 15? He does get 15 kills. So certainly paid for itself. And it looks like RV is starting to run out of ideas. This destroyer was almost dead and it gets a rank of vet right before. And it looks like RV just happy to sit there, not even trying to reclaim. Silent Noob recognizes his day, primaries him. RV control Ks, doesn't give Silent Noob the satisfaction. 42 minutes, 50 some seconds. Very well played indeed. And guys, please remember, go and subscribe over to the new FAF Cast Division channel, because if you don't, you ain't going to see many more Forge Alliance replays here. That's it from me here on the Games with Brains channel today. Hope you're doing well, and until next time, wherever in the world you may be, don't put on the incorrect video because that's bad. And until next time, I really balls that exit up, didn't I? I went away last night, and the place where we stayed at, the room was unbearably hot. One of those places where you can't open the windows. You've got to rely on the air conditioning to keep the room cool. The air conditioning wasn't working. I didn't sleep well. And as usual, continuing with the excuses, as you know I like to do, because it's everybody else's fault except mine.